A night in March 1137, or perhaps early 1138, in the city of Tikrit, nestled by the gentle flow of the Tigris in Mesopotamia, a child was born under troubled circumstances. His father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, then a commander in the Zengid army, was expelled from Tikrit the very next day for assisting a fugitive. The newborn was named Yusuf, but the world would later know him as Salah ad-Din, Saladin, the righteousness of the faith. Saladin's family was neither noble by blood nor purely Arab. They were Kurds, originating from the rugged mountains of eastern Turkey and northwestern Iran, a people living on the fringes of both Arab and Persian empires, but renowned for their loyalty and martial prowess. His father Ayyub and his uncle Shirkuh would later become prominent military leaders. Yet at the time of Saladin's birth, they were stateless wanderers, dispossessed and exiled, leading a small family into the unknown. Saladin's childhood was marked by instability and movement. After leaving Tikrit, his family settled in Mosul, one of the Islamic world's major centers at the time. It was here that young Yusuf was immersed in an environment shaped by both scholarship and soldiery. Beneath the domes of mosques, in the libraries of scholars, and among the barracks of Zengid warriors. Though born into a military family, Saladin did not grow up with a passion for warfare, as many later imagined. Contrary to the image of a fierce warrior from youth, Saladin was quiet and contemplative in his early years, deeply drawn to books, especially philosophy, history, and Islamic theology. He received formal education in Sharia law, Arabic literature, and the art of governance. His teachers often described him as humble, thoughtful, and patient, rare qualities in an age that glorified force. During his time in Mosul, and later in Aleppo and Damascus, Saladin encountered diverse schools of thought: Orthodox Sunni Islam, the Ash'ari school of theology, and intellectual traditions that balanced reason with faith. Yet under the influence of his uncle Shirkuh, a fierce and ambitious general, Saladin could not escape the path of war. Through rigorous training, he learned to ride horses, wield the bow and sword, and command troops. What set him apart, however, was that he fought not for fame, but for ideals. To many of his contemporaries, Saladin did not stand out as a bold young warrior. On the contrary, some thought him too gentle and mild to ever become a conqueror. But from that quiet demeanor, Saladin forged a strong will and long vision, not for glory, but for the heavy responsibilities that history had yet to bestow upon him. His military career began under the tutelage of his uncle, Asad ad-Din Shirkuh, a seasoned and powerful general serving under Nur ad-Din, the Zengid emir of Damascus and Aleppo, and a mentor whose influence would shape Saladin's entire life. In 1163, Shawar, the vizier of Fatimid Caliph al-Adid in Egypt, was overthrown by a rival named Dirgham of the powerful Banu Ruzayk clan and fled for his life. Seeking military support, Shawar turned to Nur ad-Din, who agreed to help. In 1164, he dispatched Shirkuh to lead an expedition into Egypt to restore Shawar's power. At 26 years old, Saladin joined his uncle on the campaign. After Shawar was reinstated as vizier, he demanded Shirkuh withdraw his army, promising a tribute of 30,000 gold dinars. Shirkuh refused, citing Nur ad-Din's orders to remain. At this stage, Saladin's role remained modest. Shirkuh assigned him to procure supplies at Bilbais, a city soon besieged by a combined force of crusaders and Shawar's troops. When Bilbais fell, the armies clashed again at the Battle of al-Babain, near the desert border west of Giza along the Nile. In this encounter, Saladin played a pivotal role, commanding the right wing of the Zengid forces. Kurdish troops held the left, while Shirkuh commanded the center. Initially, the Crusaders gained ground by attacking Shirkuh's center. However, the terrain, steep and sandy, hampered their cavalry's movement. Hugh of Syria, the Crusader commander, was captured during his charge into Saladin's wing. As skirmishes erupted in valleys south of the main battlefield, Zengid forces counterattacked. Saladin, maneuvering from the rear, rejoined the fight and helped turn the tide. The battle ended in a tactical Zengid victory. The famed Muslim chronicler Ibn al-Athir hailed it as one of the most remarkable victories in history, recognizing Saladin's role in assisting Shirkuh. Other accounts suggest the win was not absolute, given the Zengids' considerable losses. After the battle, Shirkuh and Saladin advanced to Alexandria, where they were welcomed by the local population, given supplies and arms, and allowed to establish a base. But with a large Crusader Egyptian coalition preparing to encircle the city, Shirkuh split his forces, retreating with the main army while entrusting Alexandria's defense to Saladin. This bold decision put a young, relatively untested Saladin in charge of a major city under siege. It was not only a military trial, but a defining moment in his maturation as a leader. Alexandria, Egypt's second-largest city and a crucial Mediterranean port, was now in peril. Besieged from all sides, its supply lines cut, and its people gripped by fear, Saladin had to act as general, diplomat, and pillar of morale. He strengthened the city's walls, assigned defensive sectors, stockpiled food, and worked tirelessly to calm the populace. Later Muslim chroniclers recorded that, despite his youth, Saladin exuded calm resolve and earned the trust of both Arab and Kurdish soldiers, as well as the local Egyptians. Throughout the siege, Saladin launched frequent sorties to harass enemy lines, preventing a concentrated assault. He sent messengers to Shirkuh and allied Bedouin tribes seeking reinforcements. These maneuvers bought precious time and eroded the attackers' momentum. But as provisions dwindled, disease spread, and morale faltered, Saladin made a calculated decision. He would negotiate a peaceful withdrawal. Through diplomacy, he secured a treaty that allowed his forces to leave with honor, protected the city from retribution, and spared its people from pillage. Leading his troops out of Alexandria in dignity, Saladin rejoined Shirkuh. Though technically a retreat, it was a political and humanitarian triumph, a testament to Saladin's wisdom and compassion. His name began to circulate not just in Muslim courts, but even among the Crusaders. He was no longer merely Shirkuh's nephew. He was a commander in his own right, forged in hardship and ready to step onto the stage of history. After the storm of Egypt's political struggles, the year 1169 marked a turning point in Saladin's life. His powerful uncle Shirkuh, both mentor and protector, died suddenly, not long after the suspicious death of Shawar, the vizier he had once helped to power. As power shifted and rival factions emerged, one question loomed: who would inherit supreme authority within the Fatimid court? Candidates began to emerge, most of them Kurdish like Saladin. Shared blood had become a bond among these exiles in a foreign land, and that ethnic solidarity gradually forged the foundation of what would later become the Ayyubid political dynasty. Yet another concern simmered beneath the surface. Would power now fall into the hands of the Turks, a powerful military faction with growing ambitions in Egypt? One of Saladin's close companions, the officer Isa al-Hakkari, told another contender bluntly, "You and Saladin are both Kurds. You must not let power fall to the Turks." While Nur ad-Din, the powerful overlord in Syria, planned to send someone of his own choosing to replace Shirkuh, the decision in Cairo came from another direction. To everyone's surprise, Caliph al-Adid, head of the Fatimid dynasty, appointed Saladin as vizier. At the time, Saladin was still young, barely 31, and widely perceived as weak and unthreatening. According to the chronicler Ibn al-Athir, the caliph's ministers believed, "There is no one younger and more feeble than him. No general will obey such a man." They thought he would be easy to control, but that was their gravest mistake. Immediately after his formal appointment on March 26, 1169, Saladin shed his old image as a mild-mannered youth. He abandoned wine and idle pleasures and clothed himself in the robe of a devout believer. From a quiet soldier trailing an expeditionary army, he now held both the political and military reins of Egypt. Yet that power would not come easily. Only months into his rule, a plot to assassinate Saladin surfaced, organized by soldiers still loyal to the Fatimid regime and their old aristocracy. But thanks to the intelligence network led by his spy master, Ali ibn Safian, the scheme was discovered in time. The chief conspirator, Naji, the palace's head of internal affairs, was arrested and executed. The very next day, a massive uprising erupted in Cairo. Over 50,000 black African troops loyal to the Fatimids, along with native commanders and civilian rebels, rose up against Saladin. But he crushed the rebellion swiftly before it could spread. From that moment on, no one in Cairo dared question his authority. Later that same year, a joint Crusader Byzantine force launched a major offensive on the port city of Damietta. Saladin, reinforced by troops sent by Nur ad-Din, defeated the attackers decisively. In the wake of this triumph, Saladin invited his father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, to come to Egypt, not only as a gesture of filial piety, but to strengthen his power base with those he trusted most. At the same time, Saladin received critical backing from the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, who encouraged him to dismantle the Shia Fatimid Caliphate and restore Sunni orthodoxy. With both military strength and religious legitimacy behind him, Saladin began consolidating his rule over Egypt. He distributed key positions to loyal family members, founded schools in Cairo and Fustat to teach Sunni doctrine, both Maliki and Shafi'i schools of jurisprudence, and gradually reformed the state along Sunni lines. He was no longer just a general, he was becoming a statesman, a builder of a new order. In 1170, Saladin launched his first campaign against the Crusaders, laying siege to the fortress of Darum in southern Palestine. King Amalric I, fearing a breach, withdrew troops from Gaza to reinforce the position. Saladin deftly avoided direct conflict, then suddenly turned and captured Gaza, ordering the destruction of its fortifications. That same year, he also seized Eilat, a small but strategically located fortress on an island at the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba. Though its capture did little to strengthen Muslim naval forces, Saladin sought to eliminate any obstacle along the sea route to the Hijaz. The decision revealed his broader strategic vision, clearing the path ahead for future expansion. From a quiet officer marching behind his uncle's army, Saladin had now become the true master of Egypt. Power no longer rested in the hands of the Fatimids or the Crusaders from the west. It now belonged to a calm, unassuming man who carried the spirit of reform and the will of a future sovereign. As the summer of 1170 passed, the winds of change began to stir through the shadowy halls of the Fatimid palace in Cairo. Nominally, Saladin still served as vizier under Caliph al-Adid, the final ruler of the Shia Ismaili dynasty that had governed Egypt for nearly 2 centuries. But in truth, power had shifted entirely into Saladin's hands. He had overhauled the state apparatus. The highest offices were now held by his trusted allies. Sunni Islam, long suppressed under Fatimid rule, was slowly but steadily returning as the dominant religious and ideological force. Saladin, once dismissed as too young and weak to control Egypt's fractious generals, had proven himself a shrewd and unyielding ruler, consolidating power without shedding blood among his own ranks. But to fully control Egypt, one final step remained: to end the Fatimid Caliphate itself. In 1171, as Caliph al-Adid lay gravely ill, Saladin prepared for the decisive moment. He ordered that the Friday prayers in mosques, lecture halls, and shrines throughout Egypt cease to mention the Fatimid Caliph's name. In its place, for the first time in centuries, the name of the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad, the spiritual head of Orthodox Sunni Islam, was recited. It was not just a religious change, it was a bold political declaration. On September 13, 1171, Caliph al-Adid died. No successor was named, no coronation followed, no royal bloodline remained to claim the throne. A dynasty that had once ruled a vast empire from Cairo to North Africa quietly vanished, undone by a man with no royal title, the son of a Kurdish general. From that day, Saladin became the uncontested ruler of Egypt, no longer bound to serve any dynastic name. Yet he did not crown himself king. Out of respect for Nur ad-Din, the Syrian overlord who had once guided his path, Saladin continued to govern Egypt in the name of the Abbasid Caliphate, preserving the image of loyalty. But tension was rising. Nur ad-Din had grown suspicious. He feared Saladin was amassing power too rapidly, turning Egypt into his own independent realm and possibly planning to break away from Syrian control. Meanwhile, Saladin, now a sovereign in all but name, had no interest in being watched or restrained, even by his former master. Before the two men could confront each other, Nur ad-Din died unexpectedly in 1174, leaving a power vacuum in Syria. His death presented Saladin with a new opportunity, not merely to govern Egypt, but to unite the entire Muslim world, from the Nile to the Euphrates, under one banner. And thus, from the ashes of the Fatimid Caliphate, a new dynasty emerged, the Ayyubid dynasty, named for Saladin's father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub. Though Saladin never claimed the title of king or caliph, everyone knew who truly held the reins of the Middle East. He was no longer a vizier, no longer a student trailing his uncle's army. Saladin was now the guide of the Muslim world's destiny, a man whose name struck unease into the hearts of Christian kings, and a man upon whom many now place their hope for the recovery of Jerusalem. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed this content and found it interesting, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.